Hey, I've come on here to discuss the recent community battle, full on bloodthirsty head to head combat that has occurred within the Monster Hunter community. This game has experienced such an influx of players in the last 6 years or so as the release of Monster Hunter World in 2018. And frankly, I'm kind of upset. Now, I've played these games since 2015, so I don't know if I would be considered a veteran, but I've since played every single game in the franchise, including Japanese exclusive games. I am a super fan. Anybody who knows me knows that. And if you watch any videos on the D Life HD channel, which is a channel that I am a part of, you know that I've covered all of Rise from the first trailer that got announced up until release, including some of the title updates. But Rise was not my introduction to the series, nor was World. 4 generations. I actually started out in the 3rd generation. I was a little bit late to the party. I know the 4th generation was coming out in America around the time that I started playing, but I actually started out playing Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the 3DS first, and since have gone back and played every single game in the franchise, 3 being my favorite. And so I'd consider myself somewhat of a super fan, and whether you call me a veteran or not, I don't know. I would consider myself a veteran of the franchise since I got in before the massive influx of players that came along with the 5th generation. But with Monster Hunter Wilds being announced, the 6th mainline entry into this franchise, all of a sudden head-to-head combat has just spawned in the community. As Capcom has made a push for a return to World, for people to jump back into the mainline game, as we're theorizing that Wilds is going to be a direct follow-up story-wise and feel-wise, because very clearly World and Rise are very different games, and I'm very much so aware of that. Now, because people are returning to World, all of a sudden, people who got in with World, or maybe people who were in before, but largely the way I see it, a lot of people who got into the franchise with the 5th generation, all of a sudden are attacking players who got into the game with the 5th portable entry in the franchise, that being Rise. For those who don't know, Monster Hunter is pretty much from the beginning been released in 2 sets, a set of games per generation. One made by what you might consider the main line. I don't like using that title because truly all the games are the main games. They all do their own thing. But the more grounded releases, the more story-focused releases, which I use lightly because obviously Monster Hunter has terrible story. It's okay to say that. It's okay. We know the story's bad, no matter what it is, especially World. I hate the story in World. But I digress. People are completely unaware of that. So many people, so many new players are unaware that Rise is not the follow-up to World. That just needs to be said. I think a lot of people who are arguing here have no idea that that's the case. Rise is not Monster Hunter 6. It is not the sequel to World. It is a companion to World. Burn that into your head, okay? Stop the head-to-head combat that has occurred. I hate it. I hate Rise players who are being put down for entering the franchise with this portable release. Maybe people who only play more casually, who only play on Nintendo. Stop putting them down. Monster Hunter has been a Nintendo franchise, not from the beginning, but for a large segment of its life has been released on portable devices and has been a Nintendo game. And it's on other things. It's on PC, so stop putting the Rise players down. Rise is a fantastic game with its own quirks. What you need to understand, and I'm not a Rise apologist, I actually probably would say that World is a better game, ultimately. It's weird. It feels like, and I hate to say this, but it feels like every single time a new game comes out, I get invested into it and I beat it, and then when I've really had my fill of it, I start to think I kind of like the previous game that was released more. And so when World came out, I got my fill of it, completed it, and felt like, well, I think the last game to be released, that being Generations and Generations Ultimate, is probably a better game. And I know when I beat Generations base game initially, I was starting to think that For You was a better game. But what you need to understand is that World and Rise are companion games. And they are not trying to achieve the same thing. They should not even be put head to head against each other. That was never the point. It was never the point to say that, okay, Rise is going to be the big follow up. If you thought that was the case, you are bound to be disappointed. Wilds is going to be more so a follow up to World. But even in that case, you need to stop comparing the games to each other because they are made by different people, different directors, with very different goals. Ichinose, the director of Rise, very much so has been on the experimental side of things. If you ever played Portable Third, which was sort of his brainchild game, which you probably haven't, you being a new fan, I'm just gonna sound kind of like a jerk here, but I just need to get this. Look, you don't have any ground to stand on. You've entered I'm glad that World is big and Monster Hunter is all of a sudden the biggest Capcom game. That's great. It means we're going to get more games, more grand scale games. I'm completely okay with that. But you cannot enter into this fan base and start putting people down. You do not have the right to do that. Rise was directed by somebody who wanted to try new things that we will see carry forward into all the future games. Guaranteed. I understand that World had a sort of a mounting system of sorts, but the Palamute mount thing was so rooted in what Rise was, and now Wilds has a mount as the central key thing of the teaser trailer. They didn't even show a flagship monster. All they showed us was that hunter riding on that mount. And where did that largely spawn from was the game that you are putting down so much. So stop crapping all over the franchise and on the game, and I guarantee it. Other things from Rise are going to come back. I don't think the Wirebug will ever see a return, just like I don't think the arts from Generations will ever return. But we will see, like, Wirebugs are very much so the follow-up to arts, and so I guarantee it, the next sort of sub-game that they release, whatever comes after Wilds as the companion game to that, will have something similar in it. Something more evolved, though. I am very much of the mindset that things like switch skills are going to be in Wilds. I think that maybe not the whole scroll swapping thing. I don't think that'll ever come back. That's too complicated. It's just, we're not going to see that return, I guarantee it. But I think switch skills are coming back because being able to customize your moveset is amazing. And I think that a lot of you guys who are just destroying Rise and saying it's a baby game, it looks like trash, which it doesn't, it's gorgeous, and it has a much better artistic direction than World. Let's take a little bit of the monster part and slap it on some bone, and there you go, that's a weapon. Are you kidding me? Look, like I said, I think World ultimately is a better game as far as combat goes, as it being more deliberate, and it may not be as complicated combat as Rise is, but I feel like the overall song and dance is better in World. But Rise did so many things right. It may not be the vision that the original Monster Hunter game had. It may not be the vision that even 3 Ultimate had that I played, but I eventually had to accept that this is the future of the franchise. When World came out, I was one of those people who was dunking on the new World fans. You guys who are now dunking on the new Rise fans. And let me tell you, I never went public about it, but I had some feelings inside about how I felt like this franchise, while World is great and a great evolution of the franchise, I felt like the initial Monster Hunter game that I loved was gone. And in a sense, that's true. But I'm jumping on the bandwagon to say, whatever these guys release again, whatever Capcom has up their sleeve, I'm going to be there for it. Whether it's the initial vision that the original game had, whether it's the initial vision that 3 Ultimate had, these games that I so dearly love, I don't care. Because I trust what they're doing with the franchise. And eventually, what I love will get stale if they continue to release the exact same game over and over again. And that's what I love about this franchise, is every single time they reinvent the wheel. They make something new, and it still has that core in it. I can still feel that core from the very first game. it's still in there. There's little hints of it everywhere. The environments, the tracking, even the combat, while it's wildly changed. No pun intended. You need to stop though. Give the Rise fans a break. If you haven't played Sunbreak, play through it. It's amazing. It may be fast combat. It may be kind of easy. Doesn't matter. It's still a great game, and it's great in handheld. That's play it on your Steam Deck. Play it on your Switch. If you don't like the Switch graphics, play it on a handheld. That's what it was designed for, and it works perfectly. The play in small bursts in between things. That's what I love it for, and that's kind of what I got into Monster Hunter for, was that portable aspect of it. Even for Ultimate, the mainline game, which World was a follow-up to in a sense, was only released on a portable console. And it didn't have very good graphics. So if you're dunking on what Monster Hunter is now from the portable side, then you don't like Monster Hunter. You love Monster Hunter World, but you don't like the franchise. And if you're going to continue to put each other, to put one side versus the other, you're just destroying the community, and you hate the franchise. Look, I don't mean to call you out in this way, but it has to be done. You need to go through and very deliberately try every single game. Go back from the beginning and play every single game. I may get flack for it, but they deserve your attention because they are wonderful. They're better than World. World's a great game, but if that's the only game you've played and you're gonna dunk on its companion game, I'm afraid you're not a fan of Monster Hunter. I'm sorry. I hope that Wilds meets your wildest expectations. No pun intended. But you might not be a Monster Hunter fan. Let's stop this nonsense. All of these games are wonderful games. Everybody knows it. All these games deserve your attention. And the diversity of combat is amazing. I guarantee, look, Wilds is not going to be a follow-up to Rise, nor was Rise a follow-up to World. They will all have their own unique flavor and their own unique little gimmicks. But that's the vision of their directors and their producers and their developers. And it's worth giving a shot. And if it's not your favorite, just wait. They will make another game for you. And if you don't like Wilds, if you didn't like World, just wait. They're gonna make another Rise-like game. It's gonna happen. All it takes is some patience. And I implore you, I encourage you, give both a shot. Give all the games a shot. Go back and play the old games. They're worth playing. They really are. It's just something I had to get off my chest. Monster Hunter forever.